You know, Victoria, we saw in New York recently where several migrants just literally beat down a police officer. And Alvin Briggs did not even ask to press charges. Just an outrage. I mean, what is the rule of law now? What about Americans first? And then you have, in New York, they are paying $53 million to migrants who already get $1,000 a month, a cell phone, luxury hotel stay. I mean, how much can Americans continue this disrespect from their hard-paying taxpayer dollars?
Well, Americans need to take a stand and need to support elected officials that support them. And so, you know, I think this is really a testament to exactly how radical the Democrats have become in cities like New York. And they're really getting kind of a taste of their own medicine. You know, they've been voting for these policies for decades. Now they're really getting to see that the people that elected these politicians are really getting the short end of the straw. And then the people that are getting the preferential treatment are the people that didn't even vote for them at all. You know, I think they're possibly even buying future votes with some of these radical things that they're implementing. And hopefully, you know, folks look around this November or earlier if they've got primary elections and things going on and say, hey, you know, this is the time that we're going to put a stop to this. And hopefully it'll help conservatives and Republicans at the ballot box November and before that as well.
So, Victoria, last week, Congressman Brian Higgins stepped down, decided not to seek re-election. Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, is operating with a very thin majority. In fact, it's 219 to 212 as we face these issues of immigration, government spending, immigration. He can only afford to lose 3 votes, given how critical this this legislation they're trying to usher and bolster for themselves in this presidential election. How do you think this is going to play out?
Well, I think that Mike Johnson, seeing as he was the one that obviously came out of the very aggressive speaker battle that took course over several weeks on Capitol Hill late last year, I think he really has kind of put himself forward as somebody that can make amends with lots of different types of Republicans. And so I think when he sees a bill that he wants passed, he will be able to get it across. But as Bruce mentioned, you know, Speaker Johnson has said that this current bill in its current form is currently dead on arrival. So I think Speaker Johnson is actually able to leverage a lot of the power that was given to him through the speaker battle late last year and actually put pressure on the Senate to give a bill that is more palatable to Republicans and conservatives than what is currently on the table. But you know, I think this is an interesting starting point, but I think realistically it's probably a long way to go before there is something that can get passed by both chambers and ideally, you know, sent to President Biden's desk.
Victoria, what are the implications now that the King of England, King Charles, has been diagnosed with cancer? That's a shocker, though he's human like everyone else.
Absolutely. Well, you know, obviously he was only officially took the role of the head of the British monarchy last May. You know, that's when his coronation was. So this is a very short timeline that everything has happened on. And, you know, obviously that news was pretty devastating to see today. But, you know, obviously there is the possibility that William, his son, would succeed him. And you know, that would probably provide some more stability for the monarchy. Obviously, the monarch doesn't have any tangible powers in England, but a lot of countries still keep an eye on.
So you don't think? So you don't think it really has much of an impact? It's just more symbolism than anything else.
I do believe it is more symbolism, yes, but a lot of people do pay attention to it, which is why a lot of people were talking about it today, and will undoubtedly be talking about it more and more as time goes on. But in America, we definitely seem to have an obsession with the monarchy. Obviously,
but you mentioned Prince William, but his wife Kate, she's also having her own medical challenges.
Yes, she is. I did hear about that as well. Obviously he would be the one to assume the role if Charles were to step down or pass away at some point. So, at this point, I'm sure everybody's taking it day by day. Obviously, Charles is going to be getting treatment, but as the announcement today with his diagnosis was that he would be stepping away from more public-facing events. And so I think naturally, we would probably see William taking on more of those events, which would in turn probably prepare him even more than it has.
When we come back, we're going to find out whether Speaker Mike Johnson is going to need Democrats to pass his upcoming funding bill. This is Your Voice, Your Future. I'm Armstrong Williams. Don't go away. Victoria, Speaker Johnson says this immigration bill is dead on arrival. Are we seeing former President Donald Trump's hand all over this bill? And will Speaker Johnson need Democrats to pass it?
Well, Bruce definitely seems to think so. But, I think that there are lots of politicians that are aligned with the former president, who's obviously currently running for re-election. But I also think there's lots of pressure that doesn't even stem from Donald Trump, right? Like we're seeing governors, I believe it's every single Republican governor other than the governor of Vermont has supported the Texas governor, Greg Abbott, in some way over the past few weeks, whether it's by sending state National Guard troops down to the border, whether some of them actually appeared. I believe it was over a dozen governors actually stood with Texas Governor Greg Abbott in person down in Eagle Pass over the past couple days. And so I think that really shows that this pressure is coming from all areas, because I think Republicans that elected these governors are also happy to see that in the wake of the Biden administration doing absolutely nothing on border security, somebody is deciding to step up and do something. And right now, again, a lot more of that pressure seems to be coming from the states than actually from within Congress itself. But I also think a lot of these politicians that may be supporting it in the Senate and in the House, if they support something that people don't think goes far enough, they are also going to personally have to pay the price in November. If this country doesn't become more secure, if the legislation is passed and it does absolutely nothing, people are going to be a lot more frustrated than they are even right now.
Victoria, how viable and how disruptive could Robert F. Kennedy Jr. become?
I personally don't see any kind of path to victory for him. And I do think that if he does take away votes from anybody, I do believe it is the current president, Joe Biden. I don't think that any Trump voters would be supporting Kennedy Jr. I know in the beginning of his candidacy, there were some people that were kind of just anti-establishment, anti-authoritarian that were supporting what he was saying on the trail, but I think that the more that they've heard from him, they realized he's not their guy. And so I think that if Kennedy is in the race, I think that only helps former President Trump.